Tonight on the MTN News, a historic mistake.
I can see their idea of tradition throughout the decades. Well, never at any point has the National Guard supported the Nazi Party.
An epic editing error sparking outrage over a National Guard recruitment poster. Also, first he's in, now he's out. How will Congressman Matt Rosendale's sudden decision to end his Senate campaign affect the race for his current seat? And
a crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine of $355 million.
Former President Trump ordered to pay up after losing his New York fraud case. The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
A good Friday evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Montana Congressman Matt Rosendale's run for Senate was a short one, with Rosendale jumping out of the U.S. Senate race less than a week after getting into it. That's raising a lot of questions about not only his future, but also what it means for the crowded race for his congressional seat. Q2's David J. is looking into it.
Congressman Matt Rosendale's Billings office is just down the street. The U.S. House Eastern District race has 9 candidates who have filed or announced, and so far, none have dropped out. It took less than a week for Matt Rosendale's highly anticipated U.S. Senate run to come to an end. Now all eyes are on his House seat, many wondering whether Rosendale will run for re-election against the now 9 candidates vying for his seat, most running under the assumption he was leaving.
It's going to be tough.
Former MSU Billings political science professor Jason Adkins says with that many in the race, it will not take a majority to win the primary.
The fact that you don't need 50%, you only need, 30, a third of the vote or slightly more to win is going to be difficult for, political experts to figure out who has a chance to win or not.
Still, Adkins says Rosendale as the incumbent would have the advantage if he does enter the race. So far, none of the 9 candidates is dropping out of the race, even knowing Rosendale may run for re-election. Many were headed to campaign events in eastern Montana.
Even with the announcement as it is, I believe LC Arson in Congress is the best move for eastern Montana, as well as with the blessings of my family.
I am still moving ahead and running as a candidate for the Eastern District of Montana. Nothing has changed thus far.
And right on down the line, most all the others are echoing a similar response.
Unless Representative Rosendale actually does go and file for his congressional seat, I plan on forging ahead with this campaign.
I'm in this race regardless of what happens, because I believe we need a new generation of leadership in Washington to try and turn things around.
That doesn't change anything for me. I'm running for Congress to be that strong conservative fighter.
Candidates Ed Walker and Kyle Austin also tell MTN they're still running. Troy Downing was the only candidate not to respond to MTN's inquiries. Perhaps the biggest question mark, former Congressman Denny Rehberg, who tells MTN he still needs to think about what this means for his candidacy.
No, he still has some advantages, but we just don't know what kind of support he will get from the House leadership.
And Dr. Adkins says whether Rosendale enters the race or not, the campaigning may be especially challenging for nearly all of the 9.
They really need to get their names out in front of the public to have a chance, especially some of these lesser-known candidates who don't have the statewide profile.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
A New York State Supreme Court judge ordered former President Donald Trump and his companies to pay close to $355 million in penalties in a civil fraud trial. CBS News correspondent Christian Benavides has more.
Former President Donald Trump vowed to appeal a judge's decision to impose a nearly $355 million penalty against him in a civil fraud case.
A crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine of $355 million for having built a perfect company. Great cash, great buildings, great everything.
Judge Arthur Engoron ruled that Trump, his companies, and some executives were involved in an ongoing scheme to dupe banks and others with financial statements that inflated the former president's wealth. In his ruling, the judge said of Trump and the other defendants, their complete lack of remorse borders on pathological.
And for years, Donald Trump engaged in deceptive business practices and tremendous fraud.
Friday's decision bars the former president from serving as an officer or director for his New York businesses or any New York corporation for 3 years.
It's not a situation where people have lost money, let alone lost lives because of a fraud. He really does have a viable argument that this is a different justice system applying to him and to his business.
Judge Engoron stepped back from an earlier ruling that would have dissolved Trump's New York-based companies altogether.
White-collar financial fraud is not a victimless crime.
New York Attorney General Letitia James sued Trump in 2022 under a state law that authorizes her to investigate persistent fraud in business dealings. Christian Benavides, CBS News, New York.
Funeral arrangements have now been announced for the Sheridan police officer who was shot and killed in the line of duty Tuesday. A celebration of life with military honors will be held for Sergeant Nevada Kinky on Friday, March 1st at 1 p.m. at the Sheridan College Dome. That service will be followed by a processional to the Sheridan Municipal Cemetery. Kinky died Tuesday morning when he was shot while serving a man a trespass warning at a residence near downtown Sheridan. Shooting resulted in a 30-hour standoff with a man later identified as 46-year-old William Lowry. Lowry was killed by police when he fled a residence carrying a gun. Kinky is survived by his wife, a corporal with the Sheridan Police Department, and their young daughter.
Good Friday evening, everyone. Taking a live look outside from our Stockman Bank camera. Temperatures today did not change very much, and they were way below average. Had a low in the Magic City of 3 degrees this morning. Had a high of 14, 25 degrees cooler than average. But it's nice to have over 7 inches of snow thus far in February. Right now, good news and not so good news. It's 10 degrees, but the wind chill makes it feel like minus 10 because of that 24-mile-an-hour breeze. Our 7-day forecast coming up in a few minutes.
A Montana Army National Guard recruitment poster is being taken down statewide after an embarrassing editing mistake. That poster reads, "It's more than college money, it's the spirit of tradition." And in the background, images of soldiers. Only problem, they're German World War II soldiers. Kelsey Boggs finds out what happened.
But it's what's here that's catching people's eyes. German World War II soldiers mistakenly added in.
I'm sure that somewhere the PAO office for the National Guard is squirming, to say the least.
It's a recruitment poster designed to get attention.
Oh my gosh.
But not the attention the Montana Army National Guard is now receiving after a cringeworthy editing mistake.
I can see their idea of tradition throughout the decades. Well, never at any point has the National Guard supported the Nazi Party, or Germany for that matter.
Last fall, this poster was posted on billboards, in hallways, and even on digital monitors all across Montana.
I know him.
You know him?
I do.
The problem? Look closely at the background. It features German World War II soldiers.
More than likely, it's like, hey, the National Guard wants us to do this. We're an ad agency. So they went over and they got some Adobe stock. Oh, that's cool looking. I'll put that down. Well, the person probably doing it was probably the assistant of an assistant of an assistant, and, well, really didn't know our history.
MTN reached out to the Montana Army National Guard to try and find out exactly what happened, and we received this statement, which says in part, quote, "This poster does not represent our history or values and has been removed from further distribution. The intent of the poster was to show our tradition of multi-generation service. In searching for a historical image for the background of the poster, the creator found an Adobe stock photo. During the approval process, the recruiting team did not recognize the German-style uniforms and equipment. VFW District Commander Randy Stiles, a Marine and Army National Guard veteran of 25 years, knows Captain Sergeant Major Keith DeBoo personally, the man featured on the poster, holding a photo of his veteran grandfather.
Had he known that he was going to do that or be back, he would have definitely said something. He would never, ever, ever stand for something like that.
Stiles believes the mistake was made by someone who wasn't well versed in history and someone outside of the Montana Army National Guard.
They clearly were young and not in the know. I don't think it really reflects the Guard at all.
The poster has since been removed. While it's unclear how many of the posters were made, the Montana Army National Guard apologizes for its error. Veterans like Stiles hope the mistake serves as a reminder.
I think had this kid known his history, he would have realized that those aren't American soldiers, which is kind of sad.
In Billings, Kelsey Boggs, MTN News.
Ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2.
I literally have to learn how to walk again.
A rare disease has one Montana woman starting over. And later, highlights as local high school basketball teams try to earn a spot at state.